Ted, you mentioned Chicago before, and we were talking to Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was in our studio the other day, and he says to us that we need the Department of Homeland Security to patrol the streets of Chicago. It's gotten so crazy. But I suggested to him, hey, how about arming the citizenry? And he said, oh, no, because, these guns and everything, like, they can blow up trains and airplanes and everything like that. Not that we've had any trains blown up in the city of Chicago. We have a, real big gang problem. But we're kind of nervous about arming the citizenry. We do everything that we can here to avoid weaponry. What say you to that?
Well, my statement to that is, number one, God bless you guys for communicating with the good Reverend. Did you have an interpreter in the studio to assist you with his lisp?
Yeah, and it's
and I'm not talking about the verbal lisp. I'm talking about his psychological lisp. The guy's out to lunch. The guy's a dangerous man. That statement that he's afraid of arming the good citizens of Illinois, like every other state and every other city, not every other city, but the vast majority of cities, what Jesse Jackson, the Pierce Morgan, the Barbara Boxers, and the president, and the gun-running attorney general, and your phenomenally clownish Rahm Emanuel, not to mention Illinois politicians overall, in jail and otherwise, is that where there are more citizens with more firepower on their person, loaded, cocked, locked, and ready to rock, there is a dramatic reduction in violent crime. These idiots who want to create more Chicagos and more Mexicos. Mexico citizens are not allowed to get downwind of a gun. And it's, 65,000 slaughtered people there? You just got to be kidding me that these people continue to deny that. And I thank God that there are Pierce Morgans and Jesse Jacksons, because they perfectly represent the buffoonery that doesn't like Ted Nugent. I couldn't be more proud.
Mayor Tiny Dancer, that's my moniker for Rahm Emanuel, has suggested that, look, what do you need an assault rifle for? What do you need a 30-round magazine clip for? This is not what the founders had in mind, and what do you say to those arguments?
Well, you got to be kidding me. So Rahm, how many rounds do your security team have on them? Are you kidding me? As if any professional law enforcement or security detail hired by we the people's tax dollars, as if Rahm Emanuel or Mayor Bloomberg's security detail has any weapons that hold less than the maximum number of rounds. See, this is the kind of dishonesty, this is the kind of corruption and power abuse and scamming that's perfectly displayed by all things Chicago policies and politics. And they're metastasizing now because of tragedies that have nothing to do with firepower, that have everything to do with a system that won't control dangerous, murderous people when they identify themselves as dangerous, murderous people, and we do nothing until they become murderers. So with all due respect, hey, Rahm Emanuel, kiss my Glock.
Well, Ted, I asked the Reverend Jackson, how many of these murders that we've had, 500 last year, and we're setting a record again this year, were, done with AK-47s, and of course he then dodged that point. Would you be willing, Ted, to arm the citizenry with bow and arrow?
It'd be a step in the right direction.
Okay, because you're an expert at that, so maybe there's that step that we could take.
Well, first of all, I'd like, that's cute, and I appreciate that. And God knows, me and Robin Hood and Fred Bear and Natty Bumppo could probably fix the Chicago gang problem in a couple of days. But ultimately, I would like to take this opportunity on your radio show to, number one, thank you for spotlighting cockroaches and identifying logic versus fantasy and denial. But I also want to salute the brave men and women of the Chicago Police Department and Gary McCarty. I believe that's the proper pronunciation of his name.
Gary, you got the Gary part.
He's not a friend of gun owners, but I understand the dire conditions that he has to enforce law and order in that hell zone. So I salute him for his efforts and his professionalism. But come on, guys. Chicago is already Rahm Emanuel's dream. It's a gun-free zone. Mexico is a gun-free zone. Washington, D.C. is a gun-free zone. And we're talking about the murder capitals of planet Earth. Now, here in Texas, everybody's got a gun. Everybody's got an AR-15 in their vehicle, in their truck. And when was the last time you heard of a carjacking in Texas?
Yeah, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., and others insist on federal involvement, bringing in the National Guard, bringing in Department of Homeland Security to deal with the violent crime problem in the city of Chicago. What do you think about that?
And again, I think that's against the Constitution. I think you have a state's rights, and I think you have to have your state policies and state control, and it is out of hand, but it is certainly not a federal issue because the remedy is staring you in the face. And once again, this curse, I don't know what is the worst and most deadly curse, political correctness or this inbreeding don't snitch cult. The victims of violent crime in Chicago know who the murderers are. They know who the shooters are. And to cling to this no-snitch policy while their neighbors and their fellow black friends are being slaughtered is spiritual suicide. So what Gary McCarthy and what Rahm Emanuel and Governor, what's his name?
Quinn.
Yes,
he's not in jail.
Governor,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
The one that's not in prison.
Governor Pat Quinn.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to keep track. Yes.
Yet. The one that's not in prison yet. The answer has been proven over and over and over again. Identify the shooters. They know who they are. They've got fingerprints. They've got ballistic residue. They've got the evidence they need. Get these monsters off the damn streets and leave the good citizens alone. Do you guys realize that in Illinois, you're the only jurisdiction in the United States of America that has the same gun control policy as Nazi Germany and Cuba? You have to have a government-issued gun owner's identification card. And no one sees the problem with this?
Well, some of us do, but we're in the minority here.
Well, I don't think you are. I just think there's, and if I may, and I love Chicago. You know how much I love Chicago. I mean, that's the only city, I swear to God, it's the only city that the Nugent family will break our schedule to just come and eat. We literally will fly into Chicago just to hang out with the wonderful people of Illinois and the wonderful, well-groomed, friendly, upbeat, positive, spirited, uppity Chicago residents. We love Chicago. But may I sing, and it breaks my heart, may I sing live on the Bruce and Dan radio show,
please,
the Illinois National Anthem?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Ted Nugent singing the Illinois National Anthem. How pathetic.
What's the second verse?
I've got my sights on that.
It's redundant. It's redundant. You need no other lyrics than that. It's a sheep-like thing, and once the Illinois residents stand up, and I know a lot of them do, and unfortunately the Chicago tail is wagging the Illinois dog.
Ted, do you need some mouth guitar from me to? I love the a cappella version, but would you like some? Some musical accompaniment to that?
You should release that as a single.
I think it would be unnecessary. I think it would be counterproductive. I think the a cappella version says it all.
Well, all right. One other question. Interesting.
And by the way, only the guilty need to feel guilty. If someone is offended by that, that would be guilt.
There you go. Another question about the media's coverage of this, not so much the talking heads like Piers Morgan, but just the mainstream media that covers the day-to-day of politics. You had hearings about Sandy Hook. You had one father of a child who was murdered at Sandy Hook talk about gun rights. Got very little coverage. Assess how the media covers this discussion that we're having in the wake of such horrific events like Sandy Hook.
Well, you know, I'm 64 years clean and sober, and I've been in the eye of the media storm since the 60s with the Amboy Dukes. I did a lot of media, a lot of television, a lot of radio, and I witnessed it back then. And this was just a transitional period from the beatniks to the hippies. So there was a lot of spittle I had to negotiate. Being that as it may, I did so with aplomb. I wore rubber boots 24/7 back then. And I improvised, adapted, and overcome. And I ran into this, and it was manifested in the most mindless and spiritually bankrupt way when they would condemn me for eating venison. Are you kidding me? They would condemn me for killing cartoon characters because they always referenced Bambi and Boo Boo. And, of course, those are legitimate terms in an honest discussion about wildlife management. So I witnessed the de-souling of America in the media and academia. And I fought it from the very beginning, which is why I was demonized and why the left just can't get enough of me. And I just revel with pride that I caused leftists to just commit spiritual kamikaze suicide, harry-carry every day. I couldn't be more proud that idiots hate me. But being that as it may, here it is in 2013, and the media overall, except of course for Bruce and Dan.
Yeah, you got that.
And a lot of my friends, I got a lot of friends out there, and I will mention their names: the Glenn Becks, the Sean Hannitys, certainly the Rush Limbaughs, and there's so many other guys. And I know I just mentioned a bunch of names that will cause some people to just flinch. But if you really listen to the content and the honest representation of statistics, history, the evidence, there is a lot of honest history, statistics, facts, and evidence that what you guys represent is represented out there. But there's been a sheepling of America where feel good is more important than doing good, and the media is infested with hypocrites and dishonesty like you cannot, I was going to say like you cannot imagine, but we don't have to imagine. You guys know it exists. I know it exists. And let me help you guys. And it starts with terminology. It starts with nomenclature and colloquialisms. You don't put clips in guns. Guns don't accept clips. Magazines accept clips, and guns accept magazines. There are no high-capacity clips. No such thing exists. And assault weapons have been controlled since 1934, thanks to Al Capone and Illinois politicians. And the whole discussion is based upon a dishonest premise. And again, where there are more guns, there is less crime. Where you have massive gun control like Chicago, there is more crime. How does someone not admit that?
And the venison, do you like it medium rare? I mean, what?
I like it on the hoof.
Okay.
I like my venison on the hoof, broadside at 20 yards, looking the other way. I actually carry garlic and butter in my quiver, okay?
That's great.
I'm telling you. No, I love hunting. It's the greatest hunting season of my life. You know, this year again, Bruce and Dan, little old Motor City madman, Mr. Precious Adorable himself, I sent another ton of pure, renewable, natural, organic, no cholesterol, low-fat venison jerky to the heroes of the U.S. military in Afghanistan. And if that's not the wise use of a renewable resource, I don't know what is.
One last question, just in terms of the debate that's going on nationally. What did you think of Wayne LaPierre's proposal that one of the solutions is for armed guards in every school in America?
Perfect. And obviously it is perfect because those in the traumatic environment of Sandy Hook, they accepted it the other day. How can a society determine that our money, our politicians, our sporting events, our malls, and our government buildings, they deserved armed protection, but our children don't? Are you kidding me? This is the manifestation of a cultural depravity on a level that I can't imagine there is a fellow human that supports the unarmed helplessness of anyone.
Well, Ted Nugent, we thank you so much, and I think I know the words now to the Chicago anthem. I'm not a great singer, but meh, meh, is that all right? Meh.
Next time I'll come on live and we'll harmonize.
All right, there we go. Thanks so much, Ted Nugent. We appreciate it.
Dan, God bless you guys. God bless the Windy City, and God bless my brother John and his family who live there, and Mike Tamano and all my buddies there. We have a lot of great friends in Illinois, and I love the wild prairie state.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
Godspeed.